So you went in knowing nothing about the space. You didn't even picture yourself working in that space.
I'd never thought I'd work in IT.
It was
but
just
I also discovered what my strengths were within IT itself. That's good for them. But
Yeah.
I've always been a diverse person. I needed to work with people, but it also had to be interesting. I couldn't be doing one thing every day. Otherwise, I'd be bored out of my mind. Also, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You can decide you want to be a software engineer, right? But you've never been one. You only know when you get into it. We help people do their work. We help people get into systems. But we'd have to test the machines first. And if they broke, we'd have to fix them. We'd have to open them up. We'd have to change motherboards. We'd have to change keyboards. I also found my love for machines. I
Yeah.
found that I understand machines. In a country like South Africa, where people are looking for work, can you imagine how many people have those certifications? So what is going to put you out really? Because if you're coming with your certifications and someone else has certifications and a degree, who am I going to consider? The one with the degree, really. Yeah.
So in this business thing, there's three things that you actually do.
Yeah.
You have your own brand, perfume brand,
Yes.
Sense by Kenzie.
Yeah.
You're a musician.
Yeah.
And you're an author
Yes.
of a book called Untold, Stories of Resilience. You can find purpose in other
Yeah.
things and find joy in other things.
Yes.
It does not mean that you'll find them in your job.
And I don't know why people are scared of what people are going to say. I don't believe people are given gifts for them to just lay dormant. And even though I've made it this far in corporate, it wasn't just because I was good. Let's be honest. It was people who decided they were going to give me a chance. I mean,
Welcome to another episode of 360 Careers. Today, guys, we have another good one. So today, our guest is Khanyisa Ngamlana. She's a service desk access lead, which is part of IT support.
Yes.
So today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into some of the IT support work and just understanding what does the field has in terms of the opportunities to offer and what these people do every day. Kanye, welcome to the channel.
thank you, Alec.
It's been a minute since we've wanted to have this conversation, so I'm glad that we managed to finally
Yeah.
get it done.
Finally.
Finally.
Yeah.
So, dude, you've worked in a few other places before. You know, you've worked as a junior data capturer. You've worked as a customer service consultant.
Yes.
You at some point you worked as a credit consultant.
Yes.
And early childhood educator until
Yes.
a few years ago, where you moved into IT support
Yes.
as a IT store practice lead, where you did procurement. Tell us a bit about your journey, because it's quite fascinating when you see people that dabbled into a few things before they got to where they are.
Well, I think there's a lot of us actually. I don't believe that people only want to just do one thing. Well, people do. There are people who only want to do one thing, but there's many of us. So yes, I started actually with promotions. I did that. I did a bit of retail as well. I was as you said, a credit analyst. I worked as an early childhood development teacher. I worked as a water technician with Rand Water as well. So when the water crisis started, we were going around detecting leaks and making sure that we could save some water for SA. It doesn't look like it worked. But okay. and up until a few years ago, I then was looking for work actually. I told myself, I need a change, right? And I applied to this institution and they said to me, actually, we are recruiting for this bank. And we think you'd be a perfect fit. And we had just had a conversation and they were interviewing me and they said they were actually taking interns and they would like me to actually try out. I said, why not? I had nothing to lose. I went in and they said, we think you'd be perfect for.
Yeah.
And I went into that internship, learnership. It was 12 months at the time. And during that 12 months.
So this learnership, this
Yes.
internship,
Yes.
like, what was the internship for? For which role?
Okay, so it wasn't a specific role.
Yeah.
So what a learnership entails is you train towards something and they look within that business unit of what vacancies they have and they'll place you accordingly, because it's also rotational to see where you'd best fit.
Okay.
Right? So it was systems development, HUF level 5 at the time, and end user services. So during that learnership internship, they expressed that they would like me to take a role within the procurement space. I went in, and I think I did well.
So you went in knowing nothing about the space. You didn't even picture yourself working in that space.
I'd never thought I'd work in IT.
It was just an opportunity.
It was just an opportunity at the time. But funny enough is, while I was then studying, I then realized, but I've been doing IT all my life. I just didn't realize that.
It is.
I mean, yes. And I think I fell in love with it, but I also discovered what my strengths were within IT itself.
So then tell me, as you were moving towards these different careers, right? Moving from customer consultant to credit consultant to data capturer, early childhood teacher. What was the thinking behind that? Like, what was the plan? Like, what was the thinking behind moving into such different roles?
I didn't really have a plan for where I'd really end up. I knew I loved business because I also own a business, right? And at the time I was studying business administration. So I was studying and working at the same time. So it made sense to me, right? So moving into this wasn't really difficult for me. It wasn't also that I decided that I was going to spend my life doing those things. But I was finding bits and pieces of myself within these things. And I was excelling while doing them. So it really did. But also it was a means to an end, really, at the time. So it was good.
A lot of people, they sort of start with an end in mind, right? Knowing that I'm working towards becoming such and such.
Yeah.
I want to become a software engineer. I want to become a business analyst. I want to become whatever that it is.
Yeah.
That's what they start with in mind. And then they would take, these other jobs, but they always have something in target that they're working towards.
Yeah.
So there wasn't anything like that for you.
Listen, that's good for them. But
Yeah.
I've always been a diverse person. I knew early on when people were choosing what they were going to do at school, I did science and I did very well. But I knew that I needed to be diverse. If I was going to be happy in anything, I needed to be around people. I needed to work with people, but it also had to be interesting. I couldn't be doing one thing every day. Otherwise, I'd be bored out of my mind. So, but it's good for people, right? But what happens when that doesn't work out?
Yeah.
Right? I think we also need to look at that. What then happens when you've decided you wanted to be a gynecologist, for instance? And then you get to varsity and you're like, I don't like this. Two, I'm also failing it. I'm really not doing well at this. So because you promise yourself you're going to be...
I don't enjoy it.
Exactly. Change. You know the tree, right? Move. And that's what I believe.
Yeah.
So it's all good for people who thought they'd be a business analyst and they do it and they carry it out. All well. But I think we can always recreate ourselves.
So it's important to if you're someone who's probably maybe haven't figured out yet or haven't really set their eyes on something, to just take opportunities and you'll find what you like.
Yes.
Take different opportunities, different jobs, different industries.
Also, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You can decide you want to be a software engineer, right? But you've never been one. You only know when you get into it. If you haven't found what it is that you want, put yourself out there. That's the only way you're going to know where you fit in, right? That's what I believe, really. But also, who's going to hire you if you've never really put yourself out there? What of yourself have you tested? Have you tested your patience, your temperament? What of yourself have you tested? Put yourself out there.
Did you study anything prior to actually working, or straight from high school you just went straight to work?
No. I did study. I started my BBA just after high school, right?
What's BBA?
It is Bachelor's in Business Administration.
Okay.
Didn't finish it. Then I then did project management and business management. Those I finished. So I always knew I was going to go into business, but not exactly knowing what in business I'd be doing. Right. So I did study business. So that's why I'm saying, while I was working and doing all these different roles, I was studying. Yeah.
So now let's talk about this role that you currently do, right? So your role is a service desk access lead.
Yes.
So you are a lead in a service desk team.
Yes.
What is service desk? People hear a lot about, there's a service desk role.
Yeah.
IT support. Like, what is a service desk role?
Okay, so it's also an IT service desk. I think there's a difference there because you'll get a service desk that deals with just calls coming in. Oh, I need this or I need that. That has nothing to do with IT.
Oh, so they're
Right?
different.
Yes, they're different. You could call it a customer service desk if it's not IT related, because then you don't need to know anything IT related. But what a service desk is, or an IT service desk, is we cater to people. It can be external, it can be internal. In my case, it is internal. So we are a two-streamed service desk. We have the part where we take calls. These are technical calls, technical questions, and we assist users. So I deal with the security part, right? Sorry. Where I grant access, I take away access, I investigate access. I'll ask you why you need it. I won't give it to you when you need it sometimes because it doesn't make sense why you need it. So I'm a gatekeeper in a way. That's what you could call me. But you asked what an IT service desk is. That's essentially what we do. We help people do their work. We help people get into systems. So that means you need to understand operating systems. You need to have foundational IT. You need to understand machines. You need to be curious. You need to want to help people, but you need to also you need to be analytical and try to investigate things. Otherwise, you will not be able to help the user. Yeah, so you need to be curious.
So I used to be a software engineer.
All right.
And
All right, so you know exactly.
no, but here's the thing. Before, like when you're a software engineer, and then we go to the townships. Someone comes, hey, this laptop or this phone.
And you know
so,
nothing.
So yeah, so we're like I'm a software engineer. So they should be coming to you guys.
Yes. With the mechanics, I used to call it that.
Yeah.
Especially because I started in the procurement space, and what we did there was we would put orders for machines, right? But we'd have to test the machines first. And if they broke, we'd have to fix them. We have to open them up. We had to change motherboards. We'd have to change keyboards. We had to diagnose what was wrong with them, troubleshoot. So that's where I started essentially. Even when we were rolling out new machines to the business, we'd have to play around with them to see if they could actually cater to what the business needs. So essentially, we're mechanics. Just not car mechanics. That's what we are. Yeah.
Computer mechanics.
Yes, you could call it that, yeah.
So then tell me, how technical does someone needs to be to actually be successful in this career? Because with where you started, it's not like you are someone who started computer science or you did a computer networks degree, but what you guys do is that you deal with computer hardware. You troubleshoot computer issues, you troubleshoot network issues, access issues that has to do with networks and all of that. Like, what skills does someone has to have in order to be successful?
You must want to study. You must want to learn. Technology changes all the time. You don't know what you studied 3 years ago doesn't always apply now, right? And now there's AI. So one of the skills that matters, you must want to learn. You must be investigative. You must be curious, right? But you do need foundational IT skills. I mean, you're going to be scared of a laptop if you've never opened it. I mean, if you've seen a motherboard before, you'll be like, what am I doing, right? So you do need to know the foundations, right? IT foundations. You do need to understand how networks work. You do need to understand what security means in IT, right? Otherwise, you're going to mess up a lot of things. You're going to give access that you shouldn't be giving. You don't just act on a whim or to impress, but you need... So essentially, that's what service desk does, because it follows a framework. What is urgent? What isn't? What are your SLAs? Why should you be following them? But under what conditions do you meet?
What are SLAs? Just for someone who hasn't heard SLA before.
Here, several service level agreements.
Yes.
Essentially, we are contractors to the business, even though we're part of the business. So our users are clients. And so we have to meet the agreements we have with them. So if, for instance, I said you need this laptop in 2 days, it needs to be done in 2 days, because you might have a project you need to be working on.
So that's that service level agreement to say that we agree that in 2 days I'll
this
have
will be,
your...
yes, it will be up and running. And if not, I need to have communicated with you, but I also need to have had an alternative for you.
So when you started, you weren't actually sure that you'll end up being in IT, right? So it was sort of you exploring and
Yeah.
trying to find your feet. So when you started with this internship and started as a procurement, IT part in terms of procurement, where you were getting laptops and actually testing them and making sure, what made you fall in love with that space that you ended up staying for these many years?
One of the things that made me decide that I was staying, when I stepped into that building, remember I had been invited and they said, we think you'd be great at this. I stepped in and I said, I think I belong here. There's that about me. Or I look at spaces and I'm like, I belong here. So that kind of directed my path as well. That even if I did not end up within IT itself, I started seeing other opportunities, right? Because I was dealing with users and I'm a curious person. I'd be asking, what do you do? How do you do it? I then found a lot of similarities with users as well. But what I fell in love with within procurement was that it wasn't just IT, really. IT is very broad. I was also dealing with the finance department because I'm receiving laptops, I'm placing orders. I need to account as to how many were bought, what did I receive, why did I not receive.
Costs and everything
Yes.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, I also did the vendor management where I was allowed to, or given an opportunity really, to have a relationship, some sort of relationship management with vendors. I built those relationships and it worked really well. So I think one of the things that really kept me was how broad it was. It wasn't the same thing every day. And the machines were different as well. It wasn't just, nah, it wasn't just, so there's always, I also found my love for machines. I found
Yeah.
that I understand machines. I'd get a new machine, I'd be playing with it. And to a point where I needed to place my hands on new machines. I was always looking forward to. Yeah, needed to know what did they release.
So some of us we walk into the building on our day one after we get hired. We just get a laptop, it's set up, it works. But there's actually a lot that happens.
There's a lot
behind that. There's
Exactly.
teams, there's people that are
Yes.
actually working on these things
Yeah,
and
some
making
of
sure
us-
that they're secure, right?
Some of us know that you're coming way before you know you're coming. I promise you. We know you're coming. I know what type of machine you need because there's also that aspect. I need to know as a dev, what do you need? As a normal user, do you need a standard machine? What role are you into? So I also liaise, and this is my day-to-day, I liaise with the access management team, the identity management team. That is the security part of it, to say, this person is taking up this role. This is what they need. Do they need privileged access? What are they going to do with it? How long do they need it for? So we look a lot into those. Yeah.
So in terms of the learnings, right? Because as someone who started with a bachelor's in business administration and did project management
Yes.
and ended up in IT, you mentioned that you have to learn.
Yes.
So if someone is listening to this or watching this and they're really interested in this, is something that maybe they also are fascinated by computers and, you know, there are these people that are always breaking
Yeah.
things apart and putting them back together. And they're listening to this, they're like, actually, I think this is something that I
could
might enjoy. And they don't have that technical degree.
Yeah.
Like what are the courses that, or not even courses, like what training like can this person do in order to actually qualify
Yeah.
to do this type of a role?
Well, certifications are popular within the IT space, right? But yes, they're popular and they're all good. Within the service desk, the ITIL framework, which tells you what to follow, why you're following it, what your SLAs are, and for you to understand what the business really requires, that's important. There's the AZ, the Azure space now, which is important as well. There's the A+, there's other certifications that are important. However, I strongly suggest, because in a country like South Africa, where people are looking for work, can you imagine how many people have those certifications? So what is going to put you out really? Are you doing the certifications for the sake of having the certification? But when I put you in and in a room on an interview, will you understand what I'm asking you? So that's important. It's not just the certifications. So by studying and learning, I don't just mean the certifications. You need to understand the work, but also find, do you really like it? Is it something that you could wake up and do day after day? Right? Because we deal with people and people are difficult.
Yeah.
And when you don't, and when you seem to not understand what's wrong with their laptop, right? Even though they don't know it, though you will feel kind of stupid if you don't, especially if you don't understand the basics. But I would, for the younger generation, really, I strongly recommend going to school. I know there's this thing where people are saying, even if you go to school, it really isn't it? No. It's a total lie, really. Because if you're coming with your certifications and someone else has certifications and a degree, who am I going to consider? The one with the degree, really. So I encourage people to study. I encourage people to be curious. And if you really are sure that IT is what you want, you must have a leg forward. Yeah.
So have you been part of the interviewing process for some of these people, because you're a lead, right? When you're interviewing someone in your role as, an IT service desk lead, like, what are you looking for?
I'm biased on this one because I do look for someone who's teachable. IT is forever evolving and you always have to keep up to date with things. Are you teachable? But are you also willing to be, not stupid is not the right word, but are you also willing to be vulnerable to ask the next person to help you? Because we thrive in that, right? Otherwise, you're going to mess up a lot of things because you don't want to try out.
So be open to say, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very important and to be taught. So you can have all these certifications, like I said, but we've seen a lot of people who we thought, the certifications are there. We think they've garnered some kind of experience, but character isn't there. And I think that's what the world of work is now looking for, character.
If you were to give me just 4 skills that if someone has these 4 skills, they'll be successful in this role,
Okay.
what would they be?
Okay. Be teachable. I think it's a skill.
Yeah.
Communication skills. You definitely need IT foundational skills. Definitely, you need to understand that. Would teachable be another? I did say teachable.
That was the first one.
Yeah, communicate well, be teachable. I said, but be curious as well.
Yeah.
Willing to learn.
So that's the troubleshooting part.
Yes. Because troubleshooting, some things you have never seen. There's new machines all the time. You will have to go to Google. Do not
find
be
out how
afraid
to-
to find out and ask. Yes. So I think, yeah, except the certifications part.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So why is access, I mean, you sort of touched on it, right? But why is it so critical in a business? Access management.
So access management also tells me who you are. That's the first thing, right? It tells me who you are. It tells me what you need, what you're going to do with it, and what you are doing with it. So it's a story, really. It encompasses everything, really. Data scientists need access management to tell them the story about the information that is being used, information that is coming in, and information that's going out. So access management carries out the weight of what the business needs to thrive, right? So I need to manage access. Otherwise, we have a lot of fraud going on. We have a lot of cybersecurity attacks going on. So access gets into those, even though it is the front end of the business and not the back end, kinda. But that's what it does essentially.
Oh, so then it depends on what role does a person fulfills in an organization that determines what type of access they should have, because different people shouldn't have the same access.
Yes.
If your role requires that you have certain access, then you have certain access. So other people can access more sensitive information, other people obviously they not.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, you're right. We also answer to audit, right? At the end of the day, we are audited as to why was this person given this access. Because some people have access that they've never used or will never use. You find that sometimes a manager approved this person to have this access, especially privileged access, that could potentially put the business at risk. Yeah. So we essentially security workers or security personnel. Yeah, just not in uniform. You put it that way.
So now, Kanye, there's, you've mentioned that, I mean, we've spoken about you dabbling into a lot of different roles and a lot of different careers.
Yes.
And one of the other things is that as someone who's full-time employed, you also have your own business.
Yes. I do a lot. Listen.
How does, so before you tell us what you do,
Yeah.
because a lot of people, they tend to stumble into this problem that they are fully employed, but they want to start their own business and they feel like it's a conflict of interest with the business, right? Because every time or whenever you start a business, you have to declare with the business that I have a business.
Yeah.
How does that process work?
So I think businesses have compliance officers or risk officers where you can declare what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine, really. Businesses are not really against you doing your business. In fact, they could actually partner with you to do the business. It also depends, though. I mean, if you are dealing with internal clients and all of a sudden you are opening a bank. Yeah, come on.
That's a conflict of
Yes,
interest.
I mean, we can tell when you're going to get your clients. It's even worse when now you're approaching clients within. That's when it becomes a problem and an issue, really. You need to declare, because we also need to know where your source of funds come from, right? If your business is making extra amount of money, we need to know where you're getting it from. So it is important what they need to know. That you're working with. Yes. But yes, there's really nothing stopping people from following their dreams. Like I said, I believe people are creative beings. You can wake up today and decide, I think I'm going to be a gospel singer. Right? And that's all good. It's all good, really. Yeah.
So in this business thing, there's three things that you actually do.
Yeah.
You have your own brand, perfume brand, Scents by Kenzie.
Yes.
And you are a musician.
Yes.
And you are an author
Yes.
of a book called Untold, Stories of Resilience. So let's start with the Scents by Kenzie.
Okay.
What is your business? What do you do?
Okay, so I make perfumes. I make home diffusers. Right? And I love it.
Yeah.
I make people smell good. I think that's what I do, and feel good. But it's really a small business right now. But I'm planning to how do you say it? To
expand.
Yes, to expand.
Yes.
And do it proper.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll find it in small retail companies soon.
So what type of perfumes and what type of scents do you manufacture?
Okay, so right now I'm only doing generics. So whatever is already in the mainstream, I get generics for. So your Chanel, if I can drop names, your Armani C's, yeah. So yeah.
So how can people find them?
Okay, so I am on social medias. It's Scents by Kenzie. Anything with Kenzie, it's me. Scents by Kenzie.
Scents by Kenzie.
Scents by Kenzie. Yes. Scents by Kenzie. Yeah.
Okay, cool. What I'll do is that I'll get some of those links so that we can share, and if people are interested to look at them, they can check them out. And then, as a musician, tell me more about that one, because this is quite interesting. You're quite a fascinating person. You everywhere.
So that one is, I've always been a musician. Music has always been me. That's what I've always done. Besides that, I'm Xhosa. We cry, we sing, we dance, we sing.
But not all Xhosa people can sing. Yeah?
Not all of them can sing. But in a group, we all sound like we can sing, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So, but really, that is my core calling, if that's what people call it, right? I write mainly, and I sing. So that is what I do, and I love it. So yes, I don't like boxing myself, right?
Yes.
And to say I do this type of music, right? Even though the context is faith and gospel, I'm a Jesus fanatic. So even though that's the context, but the delivery can be in deep house. The delivery can be in your commercial gospel songs. The delivery can be in jazz.
I'm noticing a thread here. I'm noticing a thread here.
Okay.
I mean, your career has been like everywhere.
Yes.
You currently working, or you're doing something else, but also you're a musician. You are, an author. You have a book going on. What's happening?
And I'm a student. It makes me happy, I promise you.
Yeah.
Up until a few years ago, I used to actually pray about this. I mean, Lord, is there something wrong with me? Because I've always been this person. Listen, I started selling even in high school. I was selling in high school. I had a mini tuck shop that the teachers didn't know about. I was also publishing poems in high school, actually. So I didn't just start writing now. It's always been a thing. So everyone who knows me back then is not shocked that I do business, I write, I sing. I've always been that person, right? I think I have come to a place where I've embraced that this is who I am. But now I'm also finding in the world of work that there's people like me, right? And I'm like,
And
yes.
it's so important because actually one of the challenges is that people sometimes they expect to find fulfillment in their job.
Yes.
But sometimes, like what you do at work, it's only part of you.
Yes.
And
True.
there's this other 90% of you that is outside of your work.
Yes.
Do you find that that's like a great analogy for someone who feels like they're not like you can find purpose in other things and find joy in other things.
Yes.
It does not mean that you'll find them in your job.
And I don't know why people are scared of what people are going to say. I think that's really, it's so backward. You'll find people thinking, and I've had people say, you're doing too much, you need to focus. But I'm like, but wait, everything I am doing is within my time, but it's also within my capacity. If I feel that it's taking me away from one thing, I will not be doing it. But it's also not depleting me. Instead, it's refueling me. So that means I'm supposed to be doing this, right? I've recently learned that people call it ADHD, whatnot.
ADHD.
Yes, it's fine. I'm not that person because I get things done.
Yeah.
That's where the difference is. I think people need to find what makes them live, right? Find what makes you happy. If it's painting, paint. I don't believe people are given gifts for them to just lay dormant. Okay, if you're in engineering and you're able to paint, why aren't you painting? Right? If you're able to sing, why aren't you singing? You don't have to record like me, but sing. Because there's something that happens to you when you've done it. It's true. And I've accepted myself. Maybe it's also the growth, but I've accepted myself. Yeah.
So where can people find your songs?
Okay, I'm on all digital platforms,
Yes.
and I am Miss Kenzie. That's MISC
Miss Kenzie.
KENZIE. Yeah, Miss
Yes.
Kenzie.
We'll share it on the screen, and those
Yes.
that are listening will also share it in the description. Yeah. And then your book, dude. I mean, you gave me your book. I read your book, but I read the first draft
Okay.
of your book, and it was
yes,
quite interesting.
Yes.
Tell us about Untold Stories of Resilience
Oh, and by the way, it's written exactly how I speak. So if
and how you think.
Yes, if you feel my life is, my book is exactly.
So remember, guys, we're talking about her career, how everything is she's everywhere.
Yes, my
Trust me,
book
it's in
is.
the book as well.
But you can
In a
follow
good way.
something.
In a good way.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about it.
So Untold is really exactly what we're talking about, me. But it goes deeper into some of my life's stories of resilience. Talks about me becoming a mother, me being a career woman, me being a daughter, and me learning to accept myself, right? And forgiving myself for some things, right? Yeah, so, but Untold really put me out there. It exposes me to people which I don't like. But hey, and it wasn't just on a whim. I did say I'm a born again Christian, right? So
Yes.
I'd had these prophecies that you actually go to be right. And back in the early 2000s, I'd have these books come to me and I'd write. And I'd been writing. I have many books I've written, just not published. But Untold had this thing about it that I needed to put it out there. And I've been getting a lot of orders or, how do you say it, responses. That it spoke to people. I mean, the mess within the book, the certain pages that spoke directly to people. Yeah, so that's what Untold is about. It speaks about a lot of things. It speaks about black taxes there. I talk about my brother who was very challenged. I talk about my art. I talk about my music. I talk about people who God is allowed to embrace me and help me in my journey. Because it wasn't only, and even though I've made it this far in corporate, it wasn't just because I was good. Let's be honest. It was people who decided they were going to give me a chance. I mean, in the very first year, I don't want to mention him now because I didn't ask. But he welcomed me, and in the very first few months, he told me what he thought, right? And
Is it someone at your workplace?
Yes, someone at my workplace who said, I think you are really good at 1, 2, 3. And I think you should actually look into that. And he honed me and he would give me projects to have. And he's the one who actually let me have those relationships with vendors, with the group finance people. And he would say, can you test this for me? Tell me what you think. Be like, that's exactly what I thought. So God used him to affirm me and confirm certain things. So in the journey, I have met people like that, and I talk about those people in Untold.
So what's the main takeaway? Like when you wrote this book and you said you want this book to be out there, what's the main takeaway that you wanted people to take?
I wanted people to know that everyone goes through something. Everyone goes at some point. When we are sitting in front of you, we look all put together. But we have things that we go through, and it's never a reason for you to end your life or give up. That's why it's stories of resilience. Just be resilient. And you know what? When you're being resilient, you don't even know that you're being resilient. It's when you're on the other side that you realize, I did it. I was able to do it. Like, I did it.
Because in the midst of it, you don't think that you
don't even see, can you?
Yeah, you can't.
You don't see. The one thing that I do know, which I also write about in Untold, is faith in Jesus kept me. I always knew that I was going to get somewhere. I always knew that I was going to make it. It was someone else who was watching me would have said this one is confused. I wasn't confused at all. I knew that I was getting somewhere. And when I got to that place, I knew that it was time to settle. And that's why when you asked me, how then did you know it was time for you to stay so long in this place?
Yeah.
It was because I knew. Even though I was still doing my other things on the side, but I knew this is it.
Here.
Yes, I knew. So you will also know, it's very important to know yourself, study yourself, read yourself. What type of a person are you? When are you at your calmest? When do you know that this is what you need? Right? Yeah. So Untold speaks to all of that.
So where can people find this book?
Listen, Untold is on Amazon. I am sold out on copies, but I'm going for reprint, so you can order.
So on Amazon Kindle?
Yes, Amazon Kindle, yes. I am planning on putting it on Takealot, so it will be available on Takealot.
Yeah.
And I'm working on Amazon as well, so that I can put it out there.
Awesome, awesome. Dude, let's jump into something here.
Yeah.
So we've spoken about a lot of things,
Yes.
right? We've spoken about your career. We've spoken about, some of your companies and some of your interests and some of your passions. It shows that a person is not just defined by what they do.
No.
When you ask someone like, "What do you do?"
Yeah.
People talk about their jobs.
Yes, I've always struggled with that.
I can imagine when you are you.
Yes, yeah.
So from what you've seen inside like a large organization, right? What do people outside misunderstand most about how hiring and career growth really works?
People misunderstand the requirements. All right. People think I can speak good English. I'm a fit. I have a degree. I'm a fit. We're not just looking for your qualification. They're not just looking for your qualification. Are you a culture fit? What does your character and personality say about you? Right? Can you work around people? Because managers are not there to now nurse your personality. Can you work with people? Are you able to say, okay, I made a mistake. It can be fixed this way. Or I can acknowledge that I've made the mistake. Or someone else did make the mistake. but I can give them benefit of a doubt. We can work tomorrow, right? So it's very important that while you have the qualifications, while you've backed the interview, understand what is required. I'm not just looking for your skill. Are you not going to give me a headache? People misunderstand that. I've seen a lot of people, especially young people, who say, I've been going to interviews. I have a qualification. But when they offered an internship for 3,000 rands, you should hear how they answer. Right? But sometimes it's not because they're offering you that on a permanent basis. Listen, you don't have experience. How else are you going to get experience? I'm not saying people should be abused, but how else are you going to get experience? So we do need to look at our standards and what we are offering to get what we need. We can't just want to take and take and take and take. It's important that we understand that.
So can you then tell me, as we talk about that, right? So what do you think a lot of South Africans should pay attention to? Because obviously I always say that we are in a country where there's a lot of graduates, right? So people are sitting with certificates and people are struggling to find jobs. Like the example that you just gave now, that someone would be saying that, hey, I'm looking for jobs, but I'm not getting anything. And then they get offered something and then, and sometimes it's understandable circumstances whereby if someone gets given 3,000, it's not even enough for like your transport.
Exactly.
Can't even get accommodation for that money, right? So I sort of like sympathize with some of them because I do understand.
Of course.
Yeah. So what are other options that people can do really to make sure that they increase those chances of getting hired?
The unpopular one, volunteer. Put yourself out there. But there's a stumbling block with this. People are not mindful of what they put out on social media.
Of course,
People are naked on social media. People are saying the cringiest things on social media. Social media is letting us know how you think before you've presented yourself in the interview. You come and you say you are this person, you are bright, you work well under pressure, but social media has already told me who you are. I mean, I tried as a co-pilot, and I put my name there. Co-pilot told me what I've written, what I've released, who I am, what I'm studying, what I've studied, and what I want to do. And then he asked me, I don't know if I can refer to it. It asked me if I wanted it to draw out a timeline for me for my career projections. So can you imagine what I find for a prospect who wants work? And if you are always out there showing me that we're not on a Thursday and on a Friday, it's Puza days. I mean, your body is already used to that. When you need to be submitting projects, you'll be telling me that it's time for you to child, right? So social media is messing up a lot of things for people, right? People should be mindful of what they put out there. But you also need to understand what it is that you want. If you are called for an internship, that's what it is. But what is your goal for it? Are you looking to be employed at the end of the internship? Or are you looking for experience? You've got to give something somehow at some point. And at the end of the day, it should be put out there that as a junior or someone who's gone in, you are still learning. I think it's important to understand that the people who've done it know better than you. Yeah.
And then, I mean, I think it's quite important because I think in the last two questions you mentioned something important, right? How important is integrity? Because sometimes I find that you look for people that will work well with other people. You look for people and integrity, the way sometimes I see it is with the jumps. Sometimes there's jumps that people do, and then you question their integrity and you question the reasons why they, they did that. How important is integrity?
It's very important. Can I trust that you'll do what you said you'll do? But even if you are jumping, if I gave you an opportunity, at least have the decency to come to me and say, for these reasons, maybe we can talk it out. Perhaps I can even meet for the needs or requirements that you need, right? It's not always as easy as I'm saying, done as easy as I'm saying it. But if a person gave you an opportunity, at least have the decency to say, listen, for these reasons, don't burn bridges. You always need people. But also understand that people are looking at you while you're doing something. So they can pick up other things about you. There are people who might not tell you what they're seeing in you, but offer you certain opportunities because you're an integrous person. They just thought, I've seen this person do this. They've never done what I'm going to offer them. But because they're integrous, I believe that they'll see it to fruition, right? Integrity is very important. Because when you tell me that you're sick tomorrow, I need to trust that you're sick. If you said you're going to submit your project in time, I need to be able to know that I can sleep because Alec is going to submit the project, right? And I'm not going to have to now put out fires because. And also the lying. I find that telling the truth helps. Just find a way to put it out there. But the lying will get you in trouble. Because also, you lie to one person, they then share it to the next person to say, I wouldn't because 1, 2, 3, right? And at times you've forgotten about it. You've moved on from it, but it's stuck with one person. Right?
So Kanye, there's normally two different types of people or people in different stages, right? And I want us to give practical advice right now, right? So you mentioned that for someone who's starting out, for someone who's young, they need to study.
Yeah.
You know, it's absolutely important that they study if they want to, if they want a career in this field.
Yeah.
But take someone who's working and they're doing, they're stuck in some career and, they're listening to this or they're watching this and they feel like this is, the career that they want. They can't afford to go back and actually study from scratch, right? They want to jump and actually, they want to move into this space. What advice would you give to someone who's in that position?
Create relationships. You'd find that the experience you have will help you in the next. I mean, even universities do this. They'll ask you how many years have you worked. Then they might just credit you for those, right? Find someone in that space. Job shadow. And you'd find that you are able to recuperate a lot of years and a lot of learning, a lot of teething because you know someone within that space, right? Also, the vacancies. And when you find people in the spaces that you want to go into, it's easier for them to advise you on what you can do, what would be easier for you, right? And how it would be easier for you to get into those units.
So one thing that I want to ask you, Kanye, is, sometimes people look at a career and there's people that are different, right? There's people that look at a career and then they plan to say that, I'm going to start here and then I want to work towards 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
When you look at a career in IT service desk, what can someone aspire to be? Or what are the opportunities by actually going into that career?
You know, what's good about the service desk is you are exposed to everything.
And every business unit in a company.
You actually support all business applications. I think we support about 850. There are those we do every day, but some come, fewer times than others. So that also gives you a broad understanding of what people do in certain spaces. When they call sometimes, the way my colleagues were just having a conversation the other day. So this person called me. They're telling me that the application is giving them this error. And I'm asking them, who is the application owner? They're saying it's me. I don't know if I should press. Then they say, so how is it that you are the application owner? You're asking me what to do with the application. But you see what happens.
Yeah.
You get so exposed to, but you also get exposed to the fact that people don't know everything. Titles can make people feel, very strong. But that's what the service desk does. And that's why it's really considered as an entry level. So service desk is not a means to an end. You can come in and learn there, right? Come in, learn, get the information, but it also gives you time to know what it is that you want to do.
Oh, that's why I've actually seen a lot of people. Some of them are business analysts, some of them are actually engineers, some of them are data engineers, but they actually come from service desk.
Exactly, because you're exposed to literally everything. And a person will come and show you their code and you're like, And they're asking you what's wrong with their code. How do you know what's wrong with their code? But like I said, the people who are in IT services, most of them will come in with their certifications and diplomas, and some with their science degrees, their BScs, right? Systems development. So that's why it's important, because really, if you've never seen a code in your life, what are you going to say? Right? You don't know what you don't know.
And then there's also leadership opportunities as well.
Yes, exactly. There are leadership opportunities, yes. To be honest, I've never applied for leadership opportunities.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, integrity is important, because there are people who will speak up and call out your name in the places you're not privy to, right? And you'll be given, you will see that with integrous people, you're able to give them opportunities. You're able to trust them to say, could you lead this for me? Could you handle this with me side by side, right? Because you know they're going to carry the work out. But also it's important that you keep your mouth. Can people be able to talk to you and not be worried about what the first thing that's going to come out of your mouth? It's important, because we spend so much of our time in the workplace. Can we not be depressing people? You see, where character comes in. So even when you come to that interview, can people feel that you are not going to be depressing and starting, fights, and understand that this is a world of work? So yes, the service desk is important in that it gives you a broader view of what you could do.
Yeah. One thing that I do with all my guests is I get them to commit on the spot.
Okay.
Based on this conversation, I know that I'm gonna receive a lot of questions from viewers and from listeners around the topic. Maybe we touch something that maybe they want to find out more, or maybe they have questions around, a career, or around a question that someone with your experience can be able to answer. Can you commit to at least answering some of those questions?
Okay, I'll do that.
So she committed. So guys, please, if you have any questions, just put them in the comments, and I'll get Khanyi to answer those questions for you guys. And those that I can be able to provide some insight to you guys, I'll be able to.
Yes, he was a software dev. He's a leader. So please, yes.
So Khanyi, I've learned a lot in this episode. A lot about service desk, especially about a lot of work that goes into procuring laptops, setting them up, access management, like all the work that goes in that we don't see.
Much.
We only pick up the laptop.
You only pick up the laptop. You're like, but it doesn't work. I don't know what's going on.
And there's actually a lot, and there's people behind the scenes that are making sure that companies run smoothly.
Yep.
Before we close, is there any other advice that you want to share with someone out there? Maybe someone who's in a different career, or maybe they're just looking for a job, or they want to transition. Is there any other message that you want to share before we close?
Just do it. Just do it. And no one's going to do it for you. You can share with as many people as you want, but you have to do the move. You have to do the jump. Make the jump. Yeah.
Just jump.
Just jump. Obviously, you have to find a way, but jump.
Yeah.
But jump you will.
Guys, like I said, we're going to be closing now, but if you have any questions, put them in the comment section, and then we'll get Khanyi to answer some of those questions. Khanyi, thank you so much for coming here. I've really learned a lot, and I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with a lot of people on the channel.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.